Bienvenidos! Today we're going to talk about demonstrative adjectives and pronouns in Spanish. Demonstrative adjectives are simply adjectives that talk about or show, demonstrate, the location of a noun. So we know that adjectives are words that describe nouns, and a demonstrative adjective is simply an adjective that gives a description of the location of a noun. In English and in Spanish, we have different categories of demonstrative adjectives. We have demonstrative adjectives that describe a noun being close to us. We have demonstrative adjectives that are used to describe the noun being far from us. And in English, the demonstrative adjectives used to describe nouns that are close in location to us are this and these. If the noun is singular, we say this book, and if the noun is plural, we say these books. And as you can see, this is an adjective that's describing the noun book or books. That's why it's called an adjective. And it's a demonstrative adjective because that's the name we give to the category of adjectives that talk about the location of the noun books or book. Now, these adjectives could also be used to talk about something that's close to us temporally or in time. So if we were going to talk about a party that happened recently or is going to happen recently, we would maybe say this party or these parties. It's the same demonstrative adjective, but realize that this could be a temporal location rather than a physical location. Now in Spanish, we actually have 4 different demonstrative adjectives that represent the meaning of the noun being close to us. And these are adjectives that agree in gender and number with the noun that they're modifying, just like the other adjectives in Spanish that agree in gender and number with the noun that they describe. So the adjectives in Spanish are este libro, that would mean this book, estos libros, these books, esta fiesta, this party, estas fiestas, these parties. Now, in Spanish, we could also describe a noun as being maybe far from me, but close to the speaker. Or, I'm sorry, far from me, but closer to the listener. So I'm talking to someone and I'm talking about that book. The book may be not very close to me, but it could be close to the person who I'm talking to. And in Spanish, we would want to use some different pronouns than we would use in English. We have that and those in English that we could use to talk about things that are a little bit further away from us, but maybe close to the person we're talking to. That book. And in English, we would use ese libro and esos libros. This represents something that is a little bit further away from me, but could still be close to the person I'm talking to. Again, these adjectives agree in gender and number with the nouns they modify, so that in Spanish we have 4 demonstrative adjectives for the masculine, feminine, singular, and plural versions. Esa fiesta, that party. Esas fiestas, those parties. Now, in Spanish, we have another category of demonstrative adjectives that is similar to where we would use that and those in English, except that this category represents objects that are, or ideas or nouns in time that are far away from the listener and the speaker. And these adjectives are aquel. Aquel libro would be that book over there. We would just say that book in English, or that book over there. In Spanish, you wouldn't need the over there. You just say aquel libro. Those books, aquellos libros. That party, maybe it's a party that happened a long time ago. Aquella fiesta. those parties, aquellas fiestas. Alright, so we have three categories of location that these demonstrative adjectives describe. We have the noun is close to the speaker. We have the noun is somewhat far away from the speaker but maybe close to the listener. And then the third category, the noun that's being described is far away from the listener and the speaker. Now, the demonstrative pronouns are pronouns, which are words that stand for a noun, that represent these same three concepts. Noun close to the speaker, noun maybe far from the speaker but close to the listener, and noun very far from the listener and the speaker. These pronouns follow these same three categories, but they don't have the noun with them. It's just a word that stands for the noun. So in English we would say this or these, and it would be este, esta, estos, and estas. And the only difference in spelling between the pronoun and the adjective is the accent mark on top of the pronoun. Okay, so for this, we have este and esta that agrees in gender with the noun it's modifying. Now, of course, because this is a pronoun, we're not going to have the noun that we're modifying in there because it's not an adjective. But if I'm referring to a noun that's feminine, I would still need to use the feminine pronoun. If I'm referring to a masculine noun, I would have to use the masculine pronoun. If I'm referring to a plural noun, I'd have to use the plural versions of the masculine or feminine. So to give you an example, in English, we might say, I want this. And we're talking about a book. I want this. This is an example of a pronoun here because it stands for the noun book. So in Spanish, we would choose the pronoun for this that would represent book. Este. Yo quiero este. I want this, and we're talking about I want this book. Now, the demonstrative pronouns for the category of nouns that are far from the speaker but maybe close to the listener, we have ese, esa, esos, and esas. Again, these are identical to the demonstrative adjectives except for the accent mark. So these are pronouns. If I wanted to say those books, but we just want to use the pronoun instead of the noun, I want to say I want those. Maybe you're talking to a sales clerk and the sales clerk is standing next to some shoes that you want. You say, I want those. Yo quiero esos. I'm talking about I want those shoes. Zapatos is masculine plural, so it would be esos. I want those books. Yo quiero esos. I want those shirts, camisas. We would have to use esas. Alright, and then we have the demonstrative pronouns for the category where nouns are far from the speaker and the listener. Again, these are exactly the same as the demonstrative adjectives except for the accent mark. So if we want to say, I want that book in China, okay? Yo quiero aquel. Now, a lot of times in English we would say that one. I want that one when we're talking about one book. But in Spanish we don't put the one on there. We just say aquel. So in English we might say, I want that one. But in Spanish we would never do that. We would just say, yo quiero aquel. Oh, and there are some general, I guess, general idea pronouns that are used to talk about a non-specific noun or an idea, a noun that's not defined. And these pronouns are eso, esto, and aquello. So if I said, what's this? Especially, you come across a little child crying, what's this? ¿Qué es esto? It's really kind of not a defined noun, it's just what's the situation. Okay, that's it. Eso es. That's fun. Maybe we're talking about a trip that somebody took and some of the things that they did. That's fun, or that sounds like fun. Aquello es divertido. These are pronouns that are used to talk about a general idea. They're always masculine, they're always singular.